Donald Trump's outspoken niece is back revealing even more personal stories of what she calls her family's deep dysfunction. In her new book, Who Could Ever Love You? A Family Memoir, Mary L. Trump details how her father, Freddie, endured years of insults from his younger brother, Donald Trump, and his father, Fred Trump Sr. Mary describes how that abuse decimated her father Freddie's confidence and set him down a path ultimately leading to his death at age 42 following a struggle with alcohol. And Mary L. Trump joins us now. I guess we'll start there. Thank you for coming on the show. But Fred Trump Sr., you describe him as a sociopath who was incapable of loving anyone?
Yeah, first of all, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Fred Trump, as I say, was a straight-up sociopath, and I mean that diagnostically, not colloquially. He and my grandmother had 5 children, and I think you could describe every single one of them as a destroyed human being. We see this with Donald, the result of growing up in a family that didn't have any love, that had no real affection, and a family in which, honestly, money was the only currency. So the ethos in the family was the more you have, the more you're worth,
right,
in every sense of the word.
And I think good to point out for those who don't know it, you have a degree in psychology, correct?
Yeah, yes, I have a PhD in clinical psychology.
Okay, so does that help give you a little bit more insight into what you were seeing? Because as a younger person, it must have been very confusing.
Actually, as a kid, and I think this is true for most of us, it was normal. It's how our families
exactly,
are, right?
What you knew. Families
are closed systems. It's very difficult to see what goes on inside other people's families or to compare. Yes, it wasn't until I actually sat down to write my first book that I started thinking about my family through the lens of a clinician. And it was very revelatory. I don't think it helped me in any particular way, but it helped, I think, other people make sense of what was going on.
So tell us a little more, if you would, about the relationship between your father and his brother, Donald Trump. There have been moments where Donald Trump, as president, has spoken about his brother, even with, for him, a little degree of emotion lost there. But you say that relationship was also deeply tortured.
Yeah, honestly, they were so many years apart that they didn't really grow up together. My dad was almost 8 years older. And because he was the oldest son and the namesake, the burden was on him. So for many years, the younger children in my family and my Aunt Marianne, who was the oldest but a girl, were essentially ignored by my grandfather. So Donald had the benefit of watching how my grandfather placed all of the onus on my dad to become the killer, to become the man who would take over the empire, and fail. So he saw how my dad got dismantled as soon as my grandfather realized that Freddie was not going to cut it, whatever that meant in my grandfather's point of view. So it wasn't until much later when Donald sort of leapfrogged my dad to become the president of Trump Management after my dad had worked there for 11 years. And my dad sort of fell away because of his illness and because of his perceived failures, that Donald took over the mantle. And their relationship actually became more of the conquered and the conqueror. There was never any competition. My dad didn't see Donald as competition. He was so much younger, and he knew what his role was supposed to be. So it wasn't until the end of my dad's life that it became obvious that he was completely cast off, and the only person in the family who mattered was Donald.
Speaking of Donald, is there one incident, and I know you've written about this, about him that was kind of a tell of where he was ending up as a human being? Remember anything as a young person?
Yeah, I mean, he just never seemed interested in other people. It was all about what he was doing, his accomplishments, his successes, or his perceived accomplishments, I should say. And he was very much the same person then as he is now.
The
in
title,
a lot of ways.
Who said this?
That was actually from my first piece of hate mail, which I got when I was in 5th grade. Some anonymous parent had their child write a letter to my mom about what an awful person I was. And I don't know who wrote it. I don't know what the motivation was.
And why did you make it the title of the book?
Because it's sort of how I grew up. I grew up feeling that I was not lovable, that I was not worthy of my place in the world. And pretty much like everybody else in my family, although I didn't know it at the time, I felt I had to find ways to justify my existence. But unfortunately, all of us were doing it to people who didn't care.
The new book, Who Could Ever Love You? A Family Memoir, is on sale now. New York Times bestselling author Mary L. Trump, thank you very much. Thanks for coming into the studio. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good to have you.